Samuel, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Now, you're the director of the Splinter Palace, and that's what we're talking about today. Tell me, in your own words, a little bit about what this film is.
Okay, absolutely. Well, it's a colorful, semi-kooky comedy that
Mm-hmm.
offers a fly-on-the-wall perspective of two eccentrics who find it's not so easy to hide away from the world. The characters are Alice and Zach, and basically it's a portrait of human relationships and kind of the messy, complicated nuances that come with that, and slight codependency. Um, Explored in a pretty realistic, detailed way. But it's also kind of a love letter to art making and the process of, or the role that art can play in a person's life, whether that's as expression or therapy, and of course, just a viable career path, which is something that I've always been interested in exploring and kind of started in documentary filmmaking with a number of short films focused on, local artists, and what is that work-life
Mm-hmm.
balance that they are able to strike or maybe not strike sometimes.
I love this film. I was so engrossed by these two people. I think it's a very unusual film, which is what I always seek when I look at independent films. The two leads are very they don't feel like typical actors. They don't feel like what you're ever going to find in a Hollywood film, and their relationship
Oh,
between
cool.
them was just charming. And I love a good sort of character drama, and you've built a really good like chamber piece of just two actors in one location sort of
Right, right.
setup. How did you get involved in the film? I know that is it's Logan that plays Zach. He's the writer as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we met up on a mutual filmmaker friends project. We were
Mm-hmm.
both working on it together, and we just kind of clicked. And we always thought it'd be great to do something together because I had been kind of in my documentary mode and hadn't really made a narrative feature film before. And he was coming at it from a writer and performer, and we were just kind of spitballing ideas. And then it occurred to me, okay, in addition to writing and acting, you're also a really good painter because I had seen a bunch of the stuff that he did on a Facebook photo album and was blown away. And I'm like, how can we do this to actually have an actor who's a legitimate painter and see them paint in real time and see that process kind of unfold on screen in a authentic way? Because I love baking in that kind of authenticity. So we use that just kind of as a framework to build the story around an artist who just couldn't stop painting. Um, and it just kind of all came from there. And then we got really lucky finding Gladys Schmiel. This was her first feature film, but she was a great theater veteran in the Milwaukee area for years and years. So we brought her up to Green Bay and we just stuck them in a room and we shot it in like 5 days. It was kind of a whirlwind, but really fun.
That's interesting to know that it's his art in the film. I really enjoyed the time lapses and things that you see in there. I mean
Right, right.
the what sort of patience is required. I know typical film set, you're always just racing to make your day, and here you've got a budget time to be like, okay, he's actually going to create a painting from scratch, and we're going to time lapse it.
Right.
Does that add stress on top of the normal, or is that something that you put into the planning to make sure you could accommodate?
Yeah, that was definitely something we both wanted to represent. So we baked in like a day and a half ahead of kind of the principal photography to just get those painting
Hmm.
shots so we could really take our time to represent that well because that's not something we wanted to just rush through. To me, that was part of the magic of really showing that process. Um, and just to watch, because he's normally very detailed and very meticulous, but he had to paint like 50 plus paintings because we
Mm,
wanted them to be everywhere. So you're
yeah.
not just seeing the two same paintings in the background in every shot. So it was fun to watch him kind of form the character, to paint in character, to just make these very abstract, kind of almost childlike, playful images out of splatters and very broad brushstrokes. Um, yeah,
It was interesting to me, watching the movie every once in a while I'd be like, oh, these people, they kind of made me sad at first. They just felt like people that were a little disillusioned, maybe hadn't accomplished everything that they could in life. And I found myself feeling sorry for them, but then you get caught up in like, they just in their own heads in this relationship that they have in this house. They live in just such a like whimsical world, and it
right.
almost feels a little bit fairy tale like, even though it's completely grounded and there are no fantasy elements. Like, how did you build that tone? Like what brought you to bring about that the tone of this? Because it feels very whimsical, and I'm hoping that that's the approach you were going for. Yeah.
Right, no, yeah, that's interesting. I do agree. That kind of just came very organically. It wasn't necessarily like a deliberate approach, and I think it kind of was just a fuse from my visual sensibility kind of as a cinematographer and Logan's, personal quirks and writing style with kind of slightly heightened dialogue. It's a very talky film, two people just kind of,
Hmm.
you know, you mentioned a chamber piece or it's like a hangout movie where we're just kind of stuck there and it's very dependent upon just the performance and the dialogue. So yeah, that just kind of that weird combination came about naturally, but it works. But I can't claim that it was, at least on my part, this deliberately mastermind intentional process, you know?
Well, I liked you that for a while and watching it, I wasn't sure if they were in a relationship together or just roommates or
Right.
just friends, and I really because it just it didn't matter. It wasn't about it just wasn't a typical like relationship movie at all. And I really again, like I say, I haven't seen anything like it, and I feel like that's the spirit of what independent film should be, is
Right,
trying to
right.
find things and watch things that are telling a different perspective. So the set design, I imagine, was based a lot around the art direction was based around the actual art in the film. Is
Right.
it so where's the location? How did you find that? Like what I know obviously you're making this on a an indie film budget. So just
Right.
tell us a bit about the making of the film and how it all came together.
Right. Well, that's interesting because yeah, it was very micro budget, and I guess by micro budget I mean no budget, like maybe a couple $1,000.
Wow, well
And I did
that's impressive. Yep.
this was not my first idea, but that was my apartment at the time. It was this old mansion
Okay.
that was carved up into different 1 and 2 bedroom units, and we had a unit on the first floor. Um, so we basically completely did an overhaul set design and lived and worked in that space for a couple of weeks. And I mean, selfishly, that was maybe the funnest part to me was just building, living in the space and just, you know, working on the set design, chipping away at it. All the paintings. I have this collage board still that was featured in the background, just trying to not production design it to death, but just bake in enough kind of detail to make it believable, because a lot of sometimes with indie films or even student films, a pitfall can be kind of there's a you're kind of rushing through it and there's maybe not quite as much layers baked into the just the design of it.
Absolutely.
So I like
It
to
tends to
obsess
be.
over that and really.
Yeah, I was gonna say it tends to be an afterthought for indie film that, a lot of what we try to do here on the show is just educate casual viewers too. You generally on a big budget film, you hire an art director, you have a wardrobe person, and all these people work together to
Right.
build the sets and build. You think of like the work of Wes Anderson, who's meticulous about his production design. But you're right, on indie film, a lot of times it's just like we got this location, let's shoot. And it's an afterthought because they
Right.
go, oh, yeah, I know we didn't have the money to hire that person, but we should have paid a little bit more attention to like the color aesthetic of what this location looks like,
Yeah.
or what art is hanging in the wall in the background. You do notice a lot of like very when you watch movies, the homes in movies don't feel like real apartments and real homes. They're
Yeah.
usually
Absolutely.
they're much more particular, and a lot of that does very well to evoke what a character is going through emotionally, where they're at financially in their life. Like you can do so much with set design, and I think you nailed it. I think that's part of what drew me in. Again, if we have to be in one house, essentially one room with these people,
Right.
I want to love the world that I'm in. And if you had just used a bared wall apartment or something, it wouldn't have the same sort of magic.
That would have been hard to sit through. Absolutely. Yeah, we wanted to yeah, it's slightly heightened, we didn't wanna go full, like, hoarder, like, where it's
Hmm.
kind of decrepit and disgusting, but
Yeah.
just strike that right balance where it's a pleasant space because it's their world. This is where they exist for the vast majority of their life together in this small space, so it's a little messy, but, it's a pleasant environment, that's their little safe space.
So shooting in the same place you're living, that definitely cuts down on the commute every day to set.
Ah,
Probably made,
that's
was it essentially a situation where you could like almost like your own mini studio, you could turn the lights off every night and then come in the next day and turn the lights on again and get right back to work?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, so that was it really streamlined the process. Um, and it helped. I was literally it was a one-man crew, so we
Oh,
weren't
wow.
forcing a ton of people into the space, so we kept it very intimate and we made it work. You couldn't pull it off in a lot of situations, but for this one, it
Mhm.
just felt like the right thing to do. And we got lucky. I don't know if I'd do it again, but for this, it just
No, you got. I think it's trial by fire, right? You got to want it bad enough to put to wear all those hats and get something
right,
made. But
right,
then
yeah.
the goal is to move up and not have to do that same thing again. What's the? Were you able to shoot the movie front to back? Were you able to shoot it like in its continuity order as written, or did you break up the shoot?
Yeah, we pretty much had the luxury to do it, in the order, um, um, in sequence. So that was a really good luxury. Aside from some of the painting inserts, we were able to do it to kind of and that's for performance. I mean, I'm not an actor, but I can imagine just to make it easier on Gladys and Logan to have that relationship develop in real time and really kind of nail those that evolution, was very helpful. Yeah.
I was gonna say my wife is an actress. She's shooting on a TV show right now, and they're shooting the episodes backwards. And
Oh,
they're
man,
like,
I can't imagine.
by the
That
time
would
we get to the
just
beginning, our characters might be so much stronger. So finding that balance. So, and I've
right.
heard of there's very rare movies in history that have shot in continuous order. Like The Breakfast Club is one where they're in that library. So like, what, we can basically do this
Right, right,
front to back. I think I was watching it and wondering that because I thought that there's such an evolution between these two characters. I was like, if they had the benefit of shooting in order and the events playing out in real life, that definitely probably helped the actors like keep their character and find their groove. And I feel like it benefits your movie. You see that evolution as it
right,
goes.
right. Yeah, that's absolutely what we were going for, and I'm sure they could have done it, but it would have been unnecessarily difficult, to do
Hmm.
it out of sequence. Um, so yeah, selfishly, it helped me to just kind of keep everything in order and make sure that we were getting what we were getting, and it flowed and evolved the way that it should. Because otherwise, you're just having to plot and chart everything out, and you can get mixed up very easily.
What's the message in the movie? What do you want people to take away from it when they watch it?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, to me, I think it comes down to just the artistic process of I mean, like I go back growing up in a very small town,
Hmm.
very rural, where art wasn't necessarily valued as a career path. It was more, yeah, it's a nice, cute hobby,
Yeah.
and not that I had loving, supportive parents, but you're surrounded by people, so that mindset kind of gets baked into the back of your head. Is what I'm doing worthwhile? Is what I'm doing, does it have merit?
Hmm.
So, from my perspective, a big part of it was if you have the passion and the drive, it's worth doing, even if you aren't making millions of dollars. And not everybody will understand that, but so it's about having, some resistance in life, but kind of working through that to a place where there's understanding and acceptance and not making sacrifices.
Yeah, well, it is true. Like our art can be therapeutic. Art can just be a pure hobby. Art can be a career. The term art versus commerce always comes up in entertainment, because
Right,
like how much of it is for the art, how much of it is just to make a product and that you can sell to people. And I think that's an important message to remember that art can just be art. You can love something the same way you can love enjoying art. You can just enjoy creating art without it having to
right,
be something that you're gonna take to local markets or try to get into a gallery or you can also make personal films that you just want to put out on YouTube or just have made it to show friends and family maybe and no one else. A lot of artists do paint art just to hang in their own homes and brighten their own
right,
home and feel it's a sense of confidence. It's a sense of accomplishment that nobody else. You don't need any other party to involve or control. There's no limitations if you have an art form, music expression. It's just expression, right? And I think that's super important. Again, like I can't say enough nice things about this movie. I was pleasantly surprised. I love
I'm glad
those.
you enjoyed
I
it.
love the actors. Like, please
No,
pass
they're
along my
both
thoughts or
they're
show them
fan.
this when it comes out because
Right.
I mean, I would love to work with them both because they're um and what and Gladys's background again? She's a theater actor.
Yeah, she's a theater pro based in Milwaukee. So yeah, this was her first feature film. Very lucky that we got
Wow.
her to take that leap, the on-screen transition, but she knocked it out of the park. They both did. So very lucky to have. I mean, we did like maybe 2 or 3 takes, and we were golden. So it was such a easy process, shooting. Very lucky. That was always a hesitation of mine getting into feature narrative filmmaking is, the casting, finding the right people. It's always such a challenge, but we kind of had the luxury of knowing Logan and Gladys had the goods, and we could write these roles around them and
Hmm.
kind of customize it to their personalities a little bit. So, but
So
yeah, it was a blast.
this was your first narrative film, you said. How did you find the editorial process?
Well, compared to documentary, it was super fun and easy because it's like, we shot it in sequence. We didn't have ridiculous coverage, so it was just, okay, here, that's the best take, and it came together very beautifully and easy. Um, I mean, to me, the fun part was working with our composer Brian Packham too,
Mm,
who did a custom score for us. And that's actually how we met Gladys through Brian, in fact, because Logan and Brian are friends from way back in the day. So it was a very kind of intimate, almost like a family like, crew and atmosphere where everybody had that connection. So developing the music and tying it all together was a new fun experience as opposed to, working with, y- uh, royalty-free stuff or whatever.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that was
absolutely.
really the challenging, but fun element of coming up with an edit with custom music and weaving it all together. Yeah.
I always say that in my films, and I think all films, like music is the glue. It's
Hmm.
you can have the best visuals, the best acting, but the right music is so necessary to pull it all together and make an audience
Yeah.
really feel what you intend them to feel in the movie without being obnoxious or too in their face. But my every
Right.
time
Yeah,
I
it's
look at
it's a delicate balance, but yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
every time I look
But
at a
it's
rough edit of my film, I go like, and then my composer, I worked with one composer for like a decade, and he comes in
right.
and does this thing, and I'm like, wow, okay, yes. Once again, the music is the glue. Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, so yeah, it's a fun process, and we're hoping to make another feature film. A little bit more ambitious, maybe more than one
Hmm.
location.
Yeah.
So we'll have to get some fundraising going, but no, we'd love to shoot it in Wisconsin and keep that same crew kind of intact and alive, and keep making cool stuff.
Amazing. I hear if you go to South Beloit, which is actually in Illinois, they have amazing tax credits, and Beloit now has a film office open that you can get
Oh, cool.
assistance with making your film. Just heads up. I happen to know that
I will
fact. Yeah.
definitely keep that in mind and check them out. Yeah, yeah. But it's
That
a cool
that's
geographic
Go ahead.
area. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We talked about our mutual love of that the Beloit Film Festival, so it's a wonderful community. But for everybody out there that's watching, if you're finding us on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or somewhere else that isn't Reveal.net, and you're asking yourself what is Reveal.net, it is a wonderful platform where you can sign up and watch tons of streaming content, shorts, features, documentaries, animations, and it's free. You have to sign up for an account, but you never have to pay a fee. You will never be asked for a credit card, and you can check out the Splinter Palace, which I loved. I think you'll love it too. Samuel, thank you so much for joining us today and discussing your film.
Thank you. My pleasure.